Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever found yourself wondering why someone who claims to love you seems distant? Why do they ignore your texts, leave your calls unanswered, or seem emotionally unavailable? Society has often told us that love should be loud, expressive, and constant. But today, I want to challenge that notion and explore a different perspective. If he loves you, he may ignore you not because he doesn't care, but because of reasons deeply rooted in his emotions, fears, and personal struggles. Love isn't always straightforward, and sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Love is a powerful emotion, and for some men, it can be overwhelming. While women are often encouraged to express their feelings freely, many men are conditioned to suppress emotions from a young age. Society teaches them that vulnerability is a weakness, that showing too much affection makes them soft, and that being emotionally expressive is not masculine. As a result, when they develop deep feelings for someone, they may not know how to handle them. When a man starts falling in love, he may feel like he is losing control. He might not be used to the intensity of emotions that come with love, the longing, the attachment, the fear of loss. Instead of embracing these feelings, his first instinct might be to retreat, to create distance, or even to ignore the person he cares about the most. This is not because he doesn't love you, but because he is unsure of how to process or express his emotions in a healthy way. For some men, ignoring the person they love becomes a defense mechanism. It is their way of maintaining a sense of control over their emotions. They believe that if they allow themselves to get too close, they risk getting hurt. They fear the possibility of heartbreak, rejection, or even disappointing the person they care about. The thought of being vulnerable, of opening up their hearts and exposing their true selves can be terrifying. So instead they pull away, thinking that distance will help them manage their emotions better. This fear feelings can also stem from past experiences. If a man has been hurt before, whether a past romantic relationship, childhood trauma, or emotional abandonment, he may have learned to associate love with pain. Even if he has strong feelings for you, he might instinctively avoid them, believing that love will eventually lead to suffering. Rather than face his emotions head on, he chooses to ignore you, hoping that if he suppresses his feelings long enough, they will go away. Additionally, some men struggle with self-worth. They might feel like they are not good enough for the person they love. They may believe that they do not deserve happiness or that they cannot provide what their partner truly needs. Instead of expressing these insecurities, they withdraw, thinking that staying away is the best way to protect both themselves and their loved ones. This can be incredibly confusing and painful for the person on the receiving end. You might wonder why someone who claims to love you would distance themselves. You may feel like you're being punished for something you didn't do, or that you have to work even harder to prove your love and devotion. But the truth is, his behavior is more about his internal struggles than it is about you. Love, for some people, is not just about emotions, it is also about security. When a man is unsure of where he stands in a relationship, he may create distance to test the depth of your feelings. This is not always a conscious decision, but rather a way of seeking reassurance without directly asking for it. He wants to know, will you fight for him? Will you stay even when he pulls away? Do you love him enough to chase after him? For some men, love has been conditional in the past. Perhaps they have been in relationships where their partner left at the first sign of trouble, or maybe they have seen others walk away too easily. Because of this, they develop a subconscious need to test the loyalty and patience of the person they are with. Ignoring you becomes a way to see if you will remain devoted to them, even when they create distance. This kind of behavior often stems from insecurity. He may fear that your love is not as strong as his, or that you will abandon him when things get tough. Instead of openly communicating these fears, he resorts to withdrawing, waiting to see if you will come after him. To him, your reaction determines how much you truly care. If you get frustrated and walk away, he might take it as confirmation that you were never fully invested. But if you persist, he sees it as proof that your love is real. There is also an element of power and control in this behavior. Some men use silence as a way to shift the dynamics of a relationship. By ignoring you, they put you in a position where you have to seek them out, ask what's wrong, and make extra effort to keep the connection alive. This gives them a sense of control, making them feel more secure in the relationship. They want to see how much effort you are willing to put in, how far you are willing to go to keep the relationship intact. Another possible reason for this testing behavior is emotional unavailability. If a man is unsure about his own feelings, he might pull away to see if the relationship is something he truly wants. He may be in a phase where he is questioning whether he is ready for commitment, and by ignoring you, he gives himself space to analyze his own emotions. However, during this time, he also watches your reactions. If you continue to reach out and prove your dedication, he may take it as a sign that you are worth holding on to. While this may sound like a test of love, it is important to recognize when this kind of behavior becomes unhealthy. No one should have to constantly prove their worth in a relationship. Love should not be about chasing someone who intentionally creates distance just to see how much you care. A healthy relationship is built on mutual trust, communication, and understanding, not on emotional tests and mind games. This kind of testing can also lead to emotional exhaustion. If someone repeatedly ignores you just to see how much effort you will put in, it can make you feel insecure, anxious, and desperate for their attention. Over time, this can lead to an unhealthy cycle where you constantly feel like you have to prove yourself to be worthy of their love. Instead of feeling secure and valued, you begin to feel like you are always walking on eggshells, afraid that any wrong move will push them further away. For some people, this form of emotional testing is a habit they don't even realize they are engaging in. They may not intentionally want to hurt you, but their past experiences or personal fears make them act in ways that create unnecessary emotional distance. However, love should not be a constant test of patience and devotion. It should be a place where both partners feel safe, valued, and cherished without having to prove their worth over and over again. Life is unpredictable, and everyone faces their own set of challenges: financial problems, career stress, family issues, mental health struggles, or personal insecurities. Sometimes when a man is deeply in love but also overwhelmed by his own problems, he may choose to withdraw and ignore the person he loves. This doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't care about you. Rather, it could be a reflection of his inner turmoil. Many men are conditioned to believe that they must handle their struggles alone. Society often places a heavy burden on them, expecting them to be strong, independent, and resilient at all times. They are taught that asking for help or expressing vulnerability is a sign of weakness. As a result, when life becomes overwhelming, their instinct is to shut down and retreat into solitude rather than reach out for support. One of the most common reasons a man might ignore you during difficult times is that he doesn't want to burden you with his problems. He may believe that his struggles are his own responsibility to fix, and he doesn't want to bring negativity into your life. He might think that if he tells you about his financial worries, work stress, or personal battles, you will see him as weak or incapable. In his mind, ignoring you is a way of protecting you from his own hardships, even if it hurts you in the process. Additionally, when a man is dealing with internal struggles, he may not have the emotional capacity to engage in a relationship fully. Love requires effort, attention, and emotional presence, and when he is consumed by his problems, he may feel like he has nothing left to give. Instead of explaining this, he may simply distance himself, believing that dealing with his issues alone is the best course of action. Mental health struggles can also play a significant role in his behavior. Conditions like depression and anxiety can cause someone to withdraw from their loved ones, even when they don't want to. A man experiencing depression may lose interest in things he once enjoyed, including relationships. He may feel emotionally drained, unmotivated, or even unworthy of love. Instead of communicating these feelings, he might isolate himself, ignoring your messages and calls, not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't know how to show up in the way he wants to. For some men, stress triggers a fight or flight response. While some people cope with challenges by leaning on their loved ones for support, others instinctively push people away. He may feel like he is drowning in responsibilities and that adding a relationship into the mix is too much to handle. This can lead to a pattern of emotional distancing where he disappears for days or even weeks, only to return once he feels like he has regained control over his life. Another factor to consider is pride. If a man is struggling financially or facing career setbacks, he may feel ashamed and inadequate. He might believe that he should be in a better place before he can fully commit to a relationship. Instead of opening up about his struggles, he may choose to suffer in silence, believing that ignoring you is better than admitting he is not where he wants to be in life. If his personal struggles are temporary, he may come back once he feels more stable. However, if this behavior becomes a pattern, it can create an unhealthy cycle in the relationship. You might find yourself constantly questioning why he pulls away, wondering if you did something wrong, when in reality, his distance has nothing to do with you. When a man is overwhelmed, he may think that ignoring you is the easiest way to cope, but in reality, it leaves you feeling hurt, confused, and neglected. A relationship should be a partnership where both people can lean on each other during difficult times, not a place where one person disappears whenever life gets tough. There is a widely held belief that distance can strengthen love, that when someone is absent, their presence becomes more valued. Some men genuinely believe in this idea and intentionally create space in a relationship, thinking that it will make you miss them more, desire them more, and appreciate them when they finally return. This belief is rooted in psychology and social dynamics, where scarcity often increases perceived value. When a man ignores you because he believes that absence makes the heart grow fonder, he is not necessarily trying to hurt you. Instead, he might think he is doing something beneficial for the relationship. He may assume that if he is always available, always responding to your messages instantly, and always present, you might take his presence for granted. By creating distance, he hopes to stir emotions in you that make you long for him, appreciate his presence more, and ultimately desire him even more deeply. This behavior can sometimes be unintentional. A man who deeply loves you may naturally pull away from time to time, giving both of you space to reflect on the relationship. During these moments of absence, he may want to see if you genuinely miss him, if you will reach out first, or if the relationship can survive brief periods of emotional distance. In his mind, this temporary withdrawal is not neglect, but rather a strategy to keep the passion alive. However, for some men, this tactic is more deliberate. They may have learned from past relationships or from observing others that being too available can lead to complacency. They might have seen cases where constant presence made a relationship feel routine, where predictability led to boredom. As a result, they choose to create distance, sometimes even ignoring the person they love, just to see if their absence will make them more desirable. This concept is often reinforced by societal norms and dating advice that suggests playing hard to get makes a person more attractive. Some men internalize this belief and think that being slightly unavailable will make you chase them, increasing their perceived value in your eyes. They may ignore texts for a while, delay responding to calls, or act distant in an attempt to make you wonder about them. In their minds, this unpredictability keeps the relationship exciting and prevents it from becoming too comfortable or predictable. But while a little bit of space can be healthy in a relationship, using absence as a tool to create desire can be a dangerous game. If taken too far, it can lead to emotional insecurity, where one partner constantly questions the other's intentions. Instead of strengthening love, excessive emotional distance can cause confusion, frustration, and even resentment. Additionally, this approach can backfire. While some people may indeed miss someone more in their absence, others may interpret the distance as a lack of interest and slowly detach. If a man ignores the person he loves too often, she may begin to feel undervalued and eventually stop caring altogether. What he intended as a way to make her love him more may instead push her away. Moreover, love is built on consistency, not calculated absence. A truly loving relationship thrives on communication, presence, and mutual understanding, not on creating artificial distance to manipulate emotions. If a man genuinely loves you, he should want to be present in your life, not as a fleeting presence that disappears to increase longing, but as a steady, reliable partner who is there through both ordinary and extraordinary moments. Ultimately, while the idea that absence makes the heart grow fonder may hold some truth in certain situations, it should not be the foundation of a relationship. Love should be nurtured through connection, effort, and emotional availability, not through deliberate silence and calculated distance. Emotional maturity is one of the most important factors in a healthy and lasting relationship. It determines how well a person can express their emotions, handle conflicts, and communicate their needs. When a man lacks emotional maturity, he may struggle to navigate the complexities of love, leading him to ignore the person he cares about instead of addressing issues directly. For some men, emotional immaturity comes from a lack of experience in serious relationships. If he has never been in a deep, meaningful connection before, he may not know how to handle strong emotions. Love can be overwhelming, and without the right emotional tools, he might not know how to communicate his feelings properly. Instead of expressing his thoughts, fears, or concerns, he resorts to ignoring you because that feels easier than engaging in an open and honest conversation. Men who lack emotional maturity often struggle with confrontation. They may not know how to handle disagreements or difficult discussions, so instead of facing them, they withdraw. If something in the relationship is bothering him, whether it's an issue between the two of you or a personal struggle, he may go silent instead of working through it. Ignoring you becomes his way of avoiding discomfort, even if it hurts you in the process. Another sign of emotional immaturity is an inability to take responsibility for one's actions. A mature person understands that relationships require accountability, communication, and mutual effort. However, an emotionally immature man may not want to deal with the responsibility that comes with a committed relationship. If he feels pressure to step up emotionally, instead of rising to the occasion, he might retreat. He may ignore you as a way of escaping the expectations that come with love, believing that avoiding the situation is easier than confronting it. Additionally, some men lack the emotional awareness to recognize how their actions affect others. They may not fully understand how hurtful it is to be ignored, or they may downplay your feelings when you express concern. Instead of acknowledging your emotions, they might dismiss them, telling themselves that you are overreacting or too emotional. This kind of response shows a lack of empathy, which is another sign of emotional immaturity. Emotional immaturity can also manifest in a fear of deep emotional connections. Some men enjoy the initial excitement of a relationship, but struggle with the depth and vulnerability that true love requires. When the relationship moves beyond the honeymoon phase and requires deeper emotional investment, an immature man may begin to distance himself. He may not know how to maintain intimacy beyond surface-level affection, so he chooses to ignore you instead of figuring out how to deepen the connection. Another important aspect of emotional maturity is communication. A mature individual understands the importance of discussing feelings, setting boundaries, and working through problems together. But when a man lacks emotional maturity, he may see communication as unnecessary or even burdensome. He may believe that if he ignores a situation long enough, it will resolve itself. Unfortunately, this often leads to misunderstandings, resentment, and an unhealthy dynamic where one person is constantly chasing after the other for clarity and reassurance. It's also possible that he has developed a pattern of avoidance from his past relationships. If he was never taught how to properly express his emotions, or if he has been in relationships where avoidance was normalized, he may repeat the same patterns without realizing it. He may have learned that when things get tough, the best response is to pull away rather than confront emotions head on. Ignoring someone as a way of coping is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of immaturity. A man who truly values and respects his relationship will make an effort to communicate, even when it's uncomfortable. Love requires emotional growth, and unless he is willing to develop that maturity, the relationship will likely suffer. Commitment can be one of the most intimidating aspects of a relationship, especially for someone who is not emotionally prepared for it. While he may love you deeply, he may also feel a strong fear of what commitment entails: responsibility, vulnerability, expectations, and the possibility of losing his independence. This internal conflict can cause him to distance himself, sometimes by ignoring you, as a way of subconsciously resisting the deepening of the relationship. For some men, the fear of commitment stems from past experiences. If he has been in relationships where he felt trapped, hurt, or emotionally drained, he may associate commitment with pain rather than happiness. Perhaps he witnessed his parents go through a difficult marriage, or maybe he was deeply invested in someone who later abandoned him. These experiences can create an emotional barrier that makes him hesitant to fully engage in a new relationship, no matter how much he loves you. Commitment also requires vulnerability, which can be frightening for someone who is used to guarding their emotions. When a man commits to a relationship, he opens himself up to the risk of heartbreak, disappointment, and emotional dependency. If he has spent most of his life prioritizing his independence and emotional self-sufficiency, the thought of needing someone on a deep level might scare him. Ignoring you could be his way of maintaining emotional distance, so that he doesn't have to face these fears head-on. Another reason a man may be afraid of commitment is that he enjoys the comfort of having you in his life, but is not ready to take the next step. He may love spending time with you, care about you deeply, and even envision a future with you in theory, but when it comes to actually committing, he hesitates. This hesitation could be due to uncertainty about what he truly wants, doubts about his readiness for a serious relationship, or even a fear of making the wrong choice. Instead of being honest about these feelings, he may choose to ignore you, hoping that the issue will resolve itself or that you will lower your expectations. Some men also struggle with the idea of losing their freedom. They may associate commitment with restrictions, obligations, and a loss of personal space. If he values his independence above all else, he might pull away whenever he feels that the relationship is becoming too serious. Ignoring you could be his way of creating distance so that he doesn't feel tied down or pressured into something he isn't ready for. Fear of commitment can also be tied to self-doubt. He may question whether he is capable of maintaining a healthy, long-term relationship. He might worry about whether he can meet your expectations, whether he will be a good partner, or whether he will eventually disappoint you. These insecurities can make him hesitant to fully invest in the relationship, leading him to ignore you as a way of avoiding the responsibility that comes with deeper emotional involvement. In some cases, a man may also ignore you because he wants to keep his options open. He may not be ready to settle down, and instead of being upfront about his intentions, he distances himself whenever he feels the relationship is becoming too serious. This behavior is unfair because it keeps you in a state of emotional limbo, making you unsure of where you truly stand with him. It is important to recognize that fear of commitment does not mean a man is incapable of love. He may genuinely care for you and feel a strong emotional connection, but if he is not ready to embrace the responsibilities and emotional depth that come with commitment, he will continue to create distance until he confronts and resolves his fears. The cycle of withdrawal and emotional avoidance will likely continue. In any relationship, timing plays a crucial role. While one person may feel ready to move forward emotionally and deepen the connection, the other might feel the need to slow things down. When a man ignores you, it could be his way of controlling the pace of the relationship, ensuring that things do not progress faster than he is comfortable with. This behavior is often subconscious, but in some cases, it is a deliberate attempt to maintain control over how and when the relationship evolves. Some men fear losing control in relationships. They may have seen others rush into commitments and later regret it, or they may have personal experiences where they felt pressured to move faster than they wanted to. Because of this, they become cautious and careful about how quickly they open up, commit, or show affection. If he feels that things are moving too fast emotionally, physically, or even in terms of expectations, his instinct might be to withdraw by ignoring you, creating space to slow things down. Ignoring you can also be a way for him to set boundaries without directly communicating them. Instead of saying, "I need more time," or "I want to take things slower," he might simply distance himself and hope that you will pick up on the message. This approach is often frustrating because it leaves you guessing about his true feelings. He may not realize that by refusing to express his thoughts openly, he is causing confusion and insecurity in the relationship. For some men, controlling the pace of the relationship is about maintaining a sense of independence. If he feels that the relationship is starting to take over too much of his time, energy, or emotions, he may pull away to reestablish his sense of self. This does not necessarily mean he does not love you. It may simply mean that he needs to create balance in his life. By ignoring you, he creates distance that allows him to regain control over his emotions and personal space. In other cases, he may be trying to control how attached you become. If he senses that you are deeply invested in the relationship while he is still uncertain about his own feelings, he may ignore you to prevent you from getting too close too quickly. This is often a defense mechanism. He may worry that if you become too emotionally attached, he will feel obligated to match that level of commitment before he is ready. By keeping you at arm's length, he ensures that the relationship remains at a pace he feels comfortable with. This behavior can also be a way to test your patience and flexibility. Some men want to see if their partner is willing to adjust to their pace rather than expecting them to move at a different speed. If he ignores you and you react by pushing harder for his attention, he may take that as a sign that the relationship dynamic does not align with his preferences. On the other hand, if you respond with patience and give him the space he is asking for, he may feel reassured that he can move forward at a pace that feels natural to him. Additionally, a man who ignores you to control the pace of the relationship may have underlying fears about commitment. He may enjoy the connection you share but feel unsure about taking things to the next level. Instead of having a direct conversation about his concerns, he chooses to ignore you as a way of slowing down the progression of the relationship without having to explain why. This lack of communication can create tension, as it leaves you wondering whether he is still invested or if he is losing interest. It is important to recognize that while wanting to control the pace of a relationship is not inherently wrong, the way it is done matters. A mature and emotionally healthy man will communicate his feelings and boundaries clearly rather than resorting to silence or avoidance. Ignoring someone as a way of slowing things down may create unnecessary confusion and emotional distress, ultimately weakening the foundation of the relationship rather than strengthening it. Some men believe that the best way to keep a woman interested is by creating a sense of mystery and unpredictability. They think that if they are too available, too eager, or too responsive, they will lose their appeal. As a result, they choose to ignore the person they love in an attempt to trigger her desire to chase them. This tactic is often rooted in outdated dating advice, societal conditioning, or personal insecurities that make them feel the need to manipulate the dynamics of the relationship. The idea behind this strategy is based on the principle of psychological scarcity. When something becomes less available, it is often perceived as more valuable. A man who believes in this method may intentionally create distance, delay responses to messages, or disappear for periods of time, thinking that it will make you miss him and crave his attention even more. In his mind, by ignoring you, he is increasing his desirability because he assumes that you will become more emotionally invested in winning back his attention. This kind of behavior is often seen in individuals who are afraid of losing control in a relationship. They may worry that if they show too much affection or availability, they will lose power and give the other person the upper hand. By ignoring you, they try to maintain a sense of dominance over the situation, ensuring that you are the one who feels the need to reach out, check in, or seek reassurance. For some men, this approach stems from past experiences where they were overly available and felt taken for granted. If they were once in a relationship where they gave too much and received little in return, they may adopt a different strategy moving forward, one where they withhold attention to see if the other person will put in more effort. In essence, ignoring you becomes a form of emotional test to see how much you truly care. This tactic can also be linked to advice that promotes playing hard to get. Many men grow up hearing that women are more attracted to men who are distant, mysterious, and unpredictable. They may have read articles, watched videos, or even been advised by friends that being too emotionally available makes them seem weak or desperate. As a result, they attempt to maintain an illusion of detachment, believing that it will make them appear more desirable in your eyes. However, what they fail to realize is that while a little bit of mystery can be intriguing, consistent emotional neglect is not attractive, it is frustrating. When a man repeatedly ignores someone he loves to make her chase him, he risks creating an unhealthy dynamic where affection is given and withheld as a form of control. Instead of fostering genuine connection, this behavior can lead to confusion, self-doubt, and even emotional exhaustion. Additionally, if a man relies on ignoring you to keep you interested, it raises questions about his emotional security. A confident, emotionally mature individual does not need to resort to manipulation to maintain a relationship. A healthy relationship is built on mutual effort, respect, and consistency, not on one person deliberately pulling away to see if the other will chase them. There is also the risk that this approach can backfire. While some people may initially respond to distance by trying harder to win someone's attention, others will eventually grow tired of the game. If a man ignores the person he loves too often, she may begin to lose interest, assuming that he is not as invested in the relationship as she is. Instead of sparking desire, his emotional unavailability may cause her to emotionally detach, leaving him with the opposite of what he intended. Ignoring someone to make them chase you is a short-term tactic that rarely leads to long-term happiness. While it may work in the early stages of attraction, it is not a foundation for a strong, healthy relationship. Love should be about mutual connection and effort, not about creating artificial distance to manipulate someone's emotions. Sometimes when a man ignores you, it has nothing to do with you or the relationship itself. It's about him and what he's going through personally. Life can be overwhelming, and everyone faces moments of emotional turmoil, stress, or uncertainty. If he is struggling with his own personal issues, whether it's work stress, financial difficulties, family problems, mental health challenges, or unresolved trauma, he may instinctively withdraw. Not because he doesn't love you, but because he feels unable to show up emotionally in the way he thinks he should. Many men are taught from a young age to deal with their problems internally. Society often pressures men to be strong, independent, and self-sufficient, discouraging them from expressing vulnerability. As a result, when they face difficulties, they may feel uncomfortable opening up about their emotions or asking for support. Instead, they pull away and retreat into their own world, hoping to figure things out on their own. This can leave their partner feeling confused and neglected, even though the withdrawal is not necessarily a sign of a lack of love. One of the most common reasons a man might ignore you due to personal struggles is work-related stress. If he is feeling overwhelmed with job responsibilities, experiencing career setbacks, or facing financial pressure, he may become so consumed by his worries that he unintentionally distances himself from the relationship. In his mind, he might believe that focusing on solving his problems is the best course of action, even if it means temporarily shutting you out. He may not realize that his emotional absence is causing you pain. Mental health challenges can also play a significant role. Anxiety, depression, or feelings of self-doubt can make it difficult for someone to maintain healthy communication. When a man is struggling mentally, he may not have the energy or emotional capacity to engage in a relationship the way he normally would. Instead of expressing what he's going through, he might choose to withdraw, fearing that he will be a burden or that he won't be understood. Family problems and unresolved emotional wounds can also cause a man to pull away. If he is dealing with conflicts at home, unresolved childhood trauma, or personal insecurities, he may be stuck in his own thoughts, making it hard for him to be present in the relationship. Some men have difficulty balancing personal struggles with their romantic life, and when life gets tough, their first instinct is to isolate themselves rather than lean on their partner for support. Another reason he might be ignoring you is that he is questioning his own sense of purpose and identity. If he is going through a period of self-reflection, wondering if he's on the right path in life, struggling with self-worth, or feeling lost, he may find it hard to connect with others, even those he loves. He might believe that before he can fully invest in the relationship, he needs to fix himself first, leading him to distance himself emotionally. Unfortunately, when a man ignores you because of personal struggles, it often leaves you feeling uncertain, hurt, or even questioning what you did wrong. The lack of communication can be painful, especially if you want to be there for him and support him through his difficulties. But because he is caught up in his own emotions, he may not realize that his silence is affecting you deeply. Some men also struggle with expressing vulnerability, even to the person they love the most. They may fear judgment, rejection, or even appearing weak. If he has been raised to believe that showing emotions is a sign of weakness, he may avoid deep conversations about his struggles altogether. Instead, he might think that by keeping things to himself, he is protecting you from his problems, when, in reality, his silence is only creating distance. While it is understandable that personal struggles can make someone withdraw, completely shutting out a partner is not a healthy way to cope. A relationship should be a space where both people can support each other. But if one person refuses to communicate, it can create a cycle of misunderstanding and emotional disconnection. If he truly loves you but is ignoring you because of personal struggles, it is important that he learns how to communicate, even if it's just to say, "I'm going through something right now, and I need some time." This small gesture can make a huge difference, as it provides reassurance rather than leaving you feeling lost and confused. If a man loves you but ignores you, it does not always mean he does not care. There can be various reasons behind his actions: fear of commitment, emotional struggles, personal insecurities, or even an attempt to control the pace of the relationship. However, love should never be about confusion, emotional withdrawal, or making someone feel unworthy of attention. A healthy relationship thrives on open communication, mutual effort, and emotional availability. If he truly loves you, he should be willing to work through his fears, communicate his feelings, and show up for you instead of pushing you away. While it is important to be understanding of his struggles, it is equally important to recognize your own worth. Love should never feel like a guessing game. If he continues to ignore you without explanation, you deserve clarity, respect, and a love that does not make you question your place in someone's life.